There we go.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut here with Brian Galke, and we are Aces 53. And what that means is, wow, look at those upload details.
Yeah.
Basically, Aces 53 is something I learned in college. Attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile is what you bring to the table in sales. The Joker is that unique ability you have or something you've learned. I didn't realize I had a deep voice until I got on air and started having cans on my ears, and I sold by the phone for many years, so that was my unique ability. Anyway, who's our guest today, Mr. Brian?
Today we're going to have on Angela Duncan, and I met her through our buddy Joe because she was on War Games as the guest speaker the other day. And so she's got an interesting story. We've kind of put that in the show notes and everything else. But with that, we'll bring her on and kind of let her explain her story and where she started.
You know, the whole War Games thing is just, you're going to add her, or do I need to do everything?
No, I'm doing it right now. Oh,
click the next one.
Dang it. I always do this wrong.
It's the middle one. There.
I know. There we go.
I'm going to fix you. Whoop. There you go.
There we go. Sorry, I got
distracted. It's like his first day at school again.
It is. I'm used to just being the pretty face, not having to do anything else, Ed.
Well, that's pretty shame if you're the pretty face.
I know.
Angela, how you doing today? I'm sorry about Brian, but he's all we got.
I know. Sounds like you guys just started learning how to use your computer today.
Not all of us, only one of us.
No, it's the craziest thing. Like right now, even Instagram isn't showing that we're live yet.
Yeah, it is.
It's not showing mine.
Because you didn't change and update it. Again, it's on you.
I did it this morning. I did it right before we joined.
Can't help you because mine went live.
Okay, well, it is what it is. I'll replay it for you, Angela.
Or just remember you were on.
Yeah.
We can see the video.
Yeah, we met you through Joe, and you were kind of explaining your... Sorry, Ed wasn't there yesterday because Ed's too good to, spend time with other people besides us.
It just wasn't asked. It just wasn't asked. So.
But give us a little bit about your background, kind of where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, so background story, quick and easy, is I grew up in Section 8 housing and welfare, and I hated being poor, got made fun of a lot by kids for having free lunch and not being able to afford clothes. And so as soon as I could sign my own lease at age 18 with 3 jobs and heading to college, I moved out and I started on this pursuit about learning about money because I thought that that's what I needed in my life to not be in poverty anymore. And so started my study there. I went to 5 years of college, took me a while, but it was paying my way. And I was a financial advisor through the tech bubble, hated that. Moved into real estate, have been in a lot of fields of real estate, including co-owning a top 10 RE/MAX office. We sold over $2 billion while I was there. Then I got bored, went to an insurance company, launched that, sold that, retired a year ago, and then I launched a podcast and figured I like talking to people about money. So podcast is an amazing platform to be able to do that.
Gotcha. Well, you sound like a slacker there, Brian.
I know. Seriously, I don't have nearly any of that kind of stuff. No. Sorry.
Stop messing around with other people, man. Focus on the show. What's your problem?
I know I'm trying to popped up an error on the screen. I couldn't get rid of it to talk, so I couldn't see you guys. But all right, so
was another one of those you have to go down to the police department and give them money. Is another one of those?
Another one of those scams? No, not this week. Yeah, Angela will tell you about that one a whole other day. All right, so you'd mentioned before, like growing up in that situation, and that you even re-wore a lot of the same clothes over and over again, right? Because you didn't have money to do this. And there's a lot of people who can stick in that woe is me situation. What was it you think that gave you the drive to go, okay, I appreciate and know where I am, but this is not where I want to be? Was that something you learned from other people? Was it something that you were kind of born with that extra drive?
Yeah, for me, I think it really comes down to my faith. It wasn't anybody else who taught me anything differently. I mean, when you grow up and you're around other kids who have more money and they have stuff, and watching people that are not really my friends, but people I know get a car at age 16 with a bow wrapped around it, I was like, why not me? And so, yeah, you're right. You could be stuck in that situation and just say, well, this is the hand that I was dealt. It's the life that I live. And then you continue to live in that cycle. But I didn't want to. I hated being poor. So sometimes it's almost like, do you enjoy winning or do you hate losing? And which one of those are your driving factor? And for me, I hated losing. So I was losing at the money game. And I thought, well, if they could do something, what is it that I'm missing? What don't I know? And I just became a very curious person and started asking a lot of questions. And every time I would come around somebody that maybe looked like they had money, I would say, what are you doing? What are you finding successful? What's your career? And then kind of just start learning from other people. And I think when you become curious and start asking questions, you find that successful people, for the most part, will answer your questions. They love to tell you what they did. They want to tell you about their career and how they've been successful. I mean, people like to talk about themselves. So it was kind of just like flipping that switch, right? I became the curious person and I allowed other people to talk about themselves. But what it did for me is teach me how there's different ways that you can earn money. And then it allowed me to figure out where's the right, fit for me at that time.
So I want to ask, because after my dad died of hairy cell leukemia when I was 12, we became dirt road poor. And so my story is the same thing. Basically, I had one pair of jeans, one pair of shoes, and a few shirts, and that was it. And that's all high school. And so that was the same reason for me to get out of where I was and to move forward. My question to you is, it's empowering her money. So your podcast is only for women? And please don't take that wrong. I quickly saw the other day, and all I've been seeing was women on there. So.
Yeah. So my mom was a single mom. And I think if she would have had more financial education or sought out financial education, maybe I wouldn't have grown up in the lifestyle that I did. So yes, Empower Her Money is where I interview female entrepreneurs, female CEOs, and we talk about business, we talk about money. Every single person has a story. And when the audience can relate to your story, that's when they start listening. So how do we help more women so that they don't have the same type of situation? I had someone on my podcast recently who was a divorce coach, and she was talking about how 75% of single moms on welfare come from a divorce situation, meaning they were used to having two incomes, or perhaps they didn't work during that marriage. And when the divorce happened, they didn't have the skills to be able to take care of themselves or their families. So for me, teaching women about money is extremely important, because I think if my mom had that education, then it would have made an impact on my life. But I wouldn't be here right now having this and telling the story if that was the case. So how do I help break that cycle for other people? Because I do believe that women want money differently. We do have more of that scarcity. We do think from our hearts and not our heads. I think male counterparts are very much logical, whereas women are more emotional. And when you think about money in an emotional state, it's very hard for you to step out of that and kind of look at the data points and figure out, how do I get to that next level of success, whatever that means to me.
No, I'm just glad that you actually niched down your podcast, because most people don't.
Well, and I have a purpose behind it. For me, it wasn't just finding like a market and here's where my podcast.
No, I don't mean that wrong. I'm just saying, but you know who you want to talk to. Where a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to exclude anybody because I want to get to everybody. No. You have to get to what's your purpose, why, what your why. I can't even talk today. And, know that in order to do a podcast, because if you don't, you're not going to get anywhere. And I'm not trying to brag, but my Inner Edison's in the top 1% of the world because I know who I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And when you're passionate about what you do, hopefully you can actually impact people and change the lives. I'm not doing the podcast just because I want to hear my own voice. No, I want to impact other people, and that's the purpose behind it.
I only do it for my voice. Damn, no wonder I'm doing it wrong.
Well, so that's a good question, though. So you knew you were unhappy in the life you were in. Now, did you have siblings or anything along that line?
Yeah, I have a brother who's 10 years younger than me. In fact, we shared a bedroom when he was born. I had a mattress on the floor. He had a mattress next to me. We shared a room because that was what my mom could afford through the welfare system, was that 2 bedrooms. So yeah, he tagged along with me everywhere possible when I was a teenager. And at the time I hated it, but it kind of gave me some skills on how to take care of somebody else. And so, you go through these life lessons. And I chose to focus on the positive. What did I learn from this? How can I use what I learned to help other people that might be in similar situations? Because I can empathize with what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the reason I asked that was because there are a lot of people who are driven up, I want to change my life. But what I heard you say is I want to change lives. And so I was curious, what was that instinct to want to not just self-preservation, but to raise up other people at the exact same time?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Very cool. Now, in your bio for the people, if they read the notes, I don't know if everybody ever reads show notes or not, but you have a very interesting career. So you've done real estate, you've owned an insurance company. How did you get started into all the different industries?
Well, the stock market was my first career, and I definitely blame it on the boiler room. I mean, they made it look like you can have vacations and cars and fancy houses, all of these things that I wanted as a kid that we didn't have. So how do I get it? Oh, I'm just going to go get my degree and work on the stock market, right? Well, what I learned is that's a very male-dominated industry, and it didn't. I am not a cutthroat person. I want to sit down. I want to have coffee. I want to get to know you. How do I help you? And that's just not how the industry was at that time. And of course, it was going up. And I thought, oh, well, I guess I must be doing something right, until that bubble burst. And I learned that, well, the market was doing good. I wasn't doing good. So I need to step back, figuring out what it is that I did wrong. How do I improve? And then where do I pivot from here? And that's when I got out of the stock market and then got into real estate.
You didn't watch the movie Boiler Room before you got into that, or Glenn Ross? I mean, because that's basically what that. And I in the mortgage industry when I first started, I worked for a guy that was the same Alec Baldwin in that Glenn Ross. So I learned what not to do in 3 years from that type of a person that I could never have learned in 20 years. So.
Yeah, but that's awesome opportunity, because then you're still learning, and then you're going to take that and, you know, bring it with you so that, you know, you're not going to do that when you're in your career.
Correct. I don't want
guys for just 1 second.
Yeah, you got to talk to your assistant.
Yep, hold on.
All right, yeah, his daughter's home. So you realized you didn't want to be in that type of environment. Did you get right out of it, or did you try a different way? Because I mean, probably, I don't know, I'm not going to guess your age, but at a certain point, everything was done one way, and then you had like different companies coming out and they're doing it a totally different way, and then now those people who were doing it a different way went back to the original way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yep. So I got my real estate license in Florida in 2007, right before the housing market crashed. So I like to joke and say I get into markets right before they crash, which is the best time to learn, because it's the most difficult market. So you have to learn how to survive in a difficult market, which makes it easier when the market turns around. So I was married at the time, and my ex-husband had been in real estate for a few years, was, you know, just crushing it. He needed some help, and I didn't want to work in the financial markets anymore. So I thought, oh, I'll just come join you, be your assistant, you know, work part-time, no problem. But I really loved real estate. In fact, I loved the investor piece, because the numbers to me always make sense. I'm a numbers person, and I like to look at data. So from an investor standpoint, you know, how much is this house going to sell for? How much work do we need to put into it? What can we rent it for? That whole world made sense to me. And I really was able to help clients find investment properties during the downturn, because the number aspect made sense to me, which meant I could teach it to other people and show them what real estate investing could look like, while also accumulating my own portfolio of single family houses and rentals too, which created a whole other problem when you own a lot of rental properties and you're, you know, having to manage things on your own. I mean, property managers are okay, but when you're doing the single family houses, it's very hard to find a property manager that's just going to wow you, because they don't make a lot of money. They have to do it by volume, right? It's like the Walmart model. So I transitioned out of the single family homes because I got tired of, you know, the toilet breaking down on Christmas because 12 people are visiting at my house, and now I've got to get a plumber out on Christmas. I don't want to have to deal with this. So how do I create passive income through real estate? I learned that owning single family properties was not the right route for me.
It's usually not the route for everybody. I mean, it's a great place to start, but like you said, apartment complex, you have a toilet break, but everything's the same in apartment complexes. Every toilet's the same, every sink's the same, everything's the same. So it's easier to deal with when you have larger scale stuff like that.
Yep.
But everybody starts in the single family. It's easy. They know it. Right.
Yeah.
And actually from 2008 through 2012, there were such amazing deals. If you held on to them, you made a fortune.
Oh, yeah. Or if you bought them right after that, Vegas, Arizona, anywhere like
Vegas
that.
was giving away condos for 30 grand on the strip. And I mean, giving them away, meaning that they're begging you to take them.
Right.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that in Tampa too. You could pick up a condo for $20,000, and rent it out and still cash flow. But I'm glad I didn't get into the condos because the HOA would turn around, raise those monthly rates, and then kick your butt and take away your cash flow. But I got out of that because I picked up a book. I love to read. And there was this book called The 16% Solution. If you're in real estate, you're thinking, how do I make 16%? So caught my eye, started reading it, and I learned about tax liens, specifically in Florida. And I really dove into tax liens. I started learning about it. And then when the next auction came up, I participated, and I've just been, kind of slowly adding to that portfolio and allowing for those to redeem. And for me, it was a much better fit. One, because I'm a conservative investor. I still want to be in real estate. I definitely don't want to manage anybody or properties. And it gave me a way to still participate in real estate without having put in all the time, energy, and effort it was as a landlord of property ownership.
You didn't do a lot of syndication?
I'm in several syndications, yes, but it's not my favorite avenue to be an investor.
Well, prior to 2006, they had a great name. And then all of a sudden, when 2007 and 8 happened and all those syndications that were there back then went under, it kind of jaded a lot of the investors who had been around for a while because of that. So I see a lot younger people getting into the new syndications than the older investors because of what they saw back then.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they're not learning what happened, 15 years ago. And we're right back in the same market right now with the interest rates being as high as they are. We're seeing a lot of apartment buildings going back to the bank. And I'm quite surprised, actually, that the media isn't posting more about it. I know we're in election right now, so that's top of news. But it's incredible. The real estate market in the commercial world right now is crushing, and people just don't know what's going on. And I don't think that it's going to be anything that will change anytime soon. So again, I'm kind of staying in my lane of that tax liens because we don't know what's going to happen in this next year.
Yeah, and I see the same thing, but a lot of those ones that are failing were bought during the pandemic, and they didn't lock in low interest rates. They did these adjustables and thought this, and that's who's losing. Because you look at Florida, the average. Where do you live now?
I'm in Miami.
Okay, so the average insurance in Florida is $14,000 a year.
Hence why I sold my insurance company last year.
I'm just saying that, just think of those numbers. That's, in California, we have fair plan and other issues, and it's $4,000 or whatever, but we're not even on the top 10 horrible list for insurance costs. That's how bad it is out there. You guys just, where Brian is in Texas, they have these things, hurricane that just came through, or major storms and other stuff. And you guys have them there, and we don't have that, but those things are affecting everywhere. And that's what's messing more with certain places with the real estate and what's happening to it, like certain price points. Because I've only heard this, like in some places in Florida, some people were trying to sell their condos for 600 some thousand, and now they can't get rid of them for $400,000.
Yeah, because the insurance and tax cost on it. There's no cap on tax rates as a non-primary in Florida, so your tax rates
or
could
Texas
double or triple.
Texas,
Yeah,
same.
Texas
Our homestead, even our homesteads here can go up 10% a year. So it doubles every 7.5 years. So if you've got a lot of older people whose houses are appreciating, and they're like, oh, but my house is paid off, but their taxes keep creeping up. I was paying $14,000 a year in taxes, and that was my homestead.
Yeah, Florida caps it for your homestead at 3%. So grateful for that, but with the rising cost of insurance, it doesn't help.
Yeah,
we're California the same way.
Yeah. Well, okay. So for non-real estate people, though, they're able to see this across industries because 2024 is being labeled the great unbossing. And that is, companies are cutting mid-level managers out as a way to make, their books look better because they have to refinance their debts as well. And so if you're paying attention to what's going on across the industry, not to be doom and gloom, but people need to pay attention to what's really happening. And look, I thought I had a safe job. There's several people who thought, oh, as long as I'm a corporate employee, everything's safe. Real estate is risky, whatever. People are learning everything is risky. Being an entrepreneur is risky,
Not as risky as working for somebody, because somebody can just fire you any moment in time just because they have some issue. And this,
100%.
What everybody's calling the great unbossing is just another round of middle management firing. It's happened many times before. We talked about this before earlier this week. It's nothing new. It's how they just do it. The only time they keep middle management is when times are going up.
Right. But we're seeing that it's tied directly to companies having to refinance and restructure debt. is where it's really coming, which was kind of exactly what you were saying with syndications as well. They did short-term loans, and now they're having to go back, and the banks are going, that doesn't look like a good deal. But one of the things, Angela, that we swapped to, we were kind of like a sales podcast last year, but this is more now about how do you stand out? How do you brand yourself? So one of the things that's interesting that you brought up earlier is what made you decide to want to launch a podcast?
Yeah. Well, I sold my last company, true entrepreneur. I thought, I'm going to retire for a bit. I was burnt. I was in the insurance industry for 5 years, and I just watched it as it continued to get worse and worse. And so I thought, I'm going to exit. Not the greatest time. I don't advise you to exit during a downturn market because you're not going to get the same multiple. But for me, it was my health and my mental state. I needed to get out from under that business and kind of take some time off. And as an entrepreneur, we're used to working a lot or always working on something. And I got bored. And so I had some bucket list items that I wanted to do. For example, last year, I wrote a book and I wanted to become a best-selling author. Like, how do we teach more women about money? Well, I'm going to put it in every platform possible. So writing a book was on my list, and I was able to accomplish that with an incredible coach. And then I was talking with my daughter, and she said, why don't you do a podcast? And I thought, oh, I'm not techie. I don't know how to do that. There's no way. It's going to be way too complicated. It's going to take me so much time. I don't know how to do that. I'm not going to do it. And she said, well, I will help you set it up. I will help you launch it and get all your social media and get all that, started for you. And all you have to do is jump on Zoom and record your episodes. Okay, easy enough. I could do that. And what I learned is I got to meet some incredible people who had just amazing stories, things that they had been through, things that they had persevered through, what they had learned, and what they can teach other people was just inspiring. And I learned so much from them. And now I've got great connections of people that are, doing amazing in their industries, so that when I do come across other entrepreneurs, one of my favorite questions to ask them is, how can I help you? Or what is your biggest struggle right now? And people like to share what they're struggling with because it kind of helps them talk through it. Maybe they come up with a solution. But in that moment, now I have these other people that I've interviewed, and I've heard their stories, and I trust them, and I know what they're doing in their industry, and I can connect people together. So it just gives me another way to help other people through their journeys by now connecting through these podcasts that I've had the chance to interview people. Because like we talked about earlier, people like to talk about themselves. So it's a great platform for them to share stories, to teach other people, and it's free, right? You can go to YouTube for free. You can go to have a free Spotify account. So why not provide information on a platform that reaches millions of people for free and still continue to teach about money?
So, Ed, do you want to share like your biggest frustration with finding people for Inner Edison?
People don't want to talk about their mistakes.
I have lots. I definitely, I'm not afraid of that one because, it makes you real, right? People will relate to you when they know that you're a real person. I've been in the finance world for 25 years and I've made a lot of mistakes. In fact, I'm going through one right now, and all I can do is just keep smiling through it. So
you're not talking about the podcast and being on here, is it? Is that what you're talking about? Is this the mistake? Ed and I can handle it.
Yeah. No. It was getting to know you, Brian.
I know. I was, I wasn't going to go that specific, but yes.
Oh, that's okay. She doesn't know me well yet. She had a whole podcast with you already. It's only been a half hour.
I mean, I can run through some mistakes for you. I wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just people. I think people are afraid that because we've had some people we know that Brian and I know wrote on my stuff, and they talked, and it was like, to me, it was like, really, that's your biggest, mistake? That doesn't, I've done that with a processor. That's not, and so, and I try to explain to people, even though it might not be that big of a deal to me, it could be huge to somebody else. And that's what you have to understand. And it got to a point where I even stopped my podcast for 6 months to figure out if I wanted to continue going. And then I came back and used some different things and other stuff. And I tell people, you have to talk about your greatest failure. You have to. There's no, otherwise your episode won't air.
Well, people can't follow your lead to get where you are if you don't explain what you went through and where you started. And that the big misconception is everybody's an overnight success, and people want to get up and talk about where they are because it's a moment of pride. But when they're not willing to talk about the struggles, that's when I shut people off, because I'm like, okay, if you're only going to talk about how perfect life is and, have the Instagram life, don't. I mean, share the shit that's in your life, right? The things that go bad, because maybe to Ed's point, somebody else needs to know that they're not alone in going through it. And that's why it's crazy that people won't share that kind of information.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they make it feel like it'll show that they messed up, and it was going to show. But people knew nothing about me when I got on until I got on public radio, and I got on radio in 2018, and now everybody knows everything about me. And then you add podcasts on top of that. So in my book, and it's all in everywhere. Nobody knew that I was dirt road poor when I was a kid, unless you were around me at that time. I had to figure out how to get to school, and we didn't live close to school. We were 3 miles away. So
I saw, Angela, that you're also a Ramsey certified coach. And I do like the Dave Ramsey. I think he's good because some people just need that militant, okay, here's where you are. You have to first go, just like having a physical, do an audit, be real with where you are. But I feel like him and Kiyosaki need a joint program, right? So Kiyosaki's like, go and make wealth. Ramsey's live off what you have. There needs to be like an in between the two of them type of coaching. So when you're teaching women about finances and money, you're certified in a lot of different things. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about finance?
Yeah, I love Dave Ramsey's program to start. If someone hasn't really worked on their finances before, he makes it very easy. He gives you a step-by-step program, which makes it easy for people to follow. So save money, get out of credit card debt, get out of car loan debt, save some money. So then when it comes to investing, that's where I agree that you need to be a little bit more, take a little bit more risk. Don't just pay off your house and hope that, you can retire someday. I don't believe that. But the beginning part of what he teaches definitely works for a majority of people, especially, you go to the usdebtclock.org website and you see U.S. consumer credit card debt is over $1.3 trillion. Like, that is something we can solve. That is not some rare disease that we haven't found a vaccine for, but we can solve that. But it comes with education and teaching Americans how to not buy stuff, to get out of credit card debt, to understand how the credit card debt system works. And that's a great way that Dave Ramsey teaches people. So it's a good facilitator role that I can put on. But I definitely agree with you. I agree that debt can be a good thing when you use it properly. All those people that have these 3% mortgages right now, they're not moving, right? Because they've got some low interest rates, and they can't really even tap out the equity to do other things with it. So it's just incredible to understand that, there's starting places, and depending on what type of investor or type of person you are, is where you're going to pivot and what you're going to learn next. For me, real estate is the best way to create wealth. It's the best way to teach other people how to create wealth. It's a long-term play. And there's always a market for something. So depending on which part of real estate, but I agree with you. There needs to be like a hybrid between the two. Or you can go to Grant Cardone, who says, forget everything else and go buy 100 units your first time you're buying an apartment complex. Well, I don't believe that either. I think that you have to learn, educate, and start smaller and then build up to that.
He didn't start at 100.
No, I started at 1.
No, he didn't.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, so here's the problem with both those people, all three. Not Kawasaki, but I have a problem with Dave Ramsey, because Dave Ramsey says cut up your credit card debt, your cards, cancel them, all that stuff, and now you don't have a FICO score anymore. So now you can't go buy property. And then I've had an argument with a few of these people I've had on my radio show who's part of the same program as you, and they're all about it. I go, well, and they go, well, you can do a manual underwrite. Do you know there's only like 1% of mortgage companies that do a manual underwrite anymore today? So you just taken out okay. I understand Dave Ramsey's is like AA. If you can't handle alcohol, that's where you go, because there's certain people who can't handle certain things and they have to go to those type of programs. That's Dave Ramsey. If you can't control spending your money ever, you need to go through Dave Ramsey. But if you're somebody who just got in over their head a little bit because maybe you just got a job, changed certain things, and you need to get ahead, don't do exactly what they say. Don't cancel them. Cut them up, but don't cancel them. And just don't use them. Just get rid of the actual card if you can't control it, because you want to keep that debt, because that's how you get things in the future with good FICO scores. It's not 2005 where I can, 3/4 of the people out there have a FICO score under 640. We're now where 3/4 of the people have a FICO score over 720. It's a totally different world. And that's where we are. And that's why all the programs are fixed for those people and not for people down real low.
Well, and on the opposite side of that, one of the challenges, and I didn't know this until you brought it up to me, is when you go and start a business, how many years is it before you can get a house if you own your own business that you have to show income?
2 years.
2 years. So a lot
Yeah.
of people are like, hey, 2 years ago was the great resignation where people left companies and said, I'm going to own my own business. But a lot of people didn't know the impact of, if I go to buy a house, I can't because I don't have that 2-year stability in there too. So there's pros and cons no matter which way everyone goes. You just have to plan it out the right way.
I say buy the house and then go start your business.
That's true. Well,
That's how
I
you
got
do it.
fired before I could do that. So
Well, no, but that's how you do it. I mean, you and it's not, so we can do a 1-year tax return,
right,
but you've had to be in business for 5 years.
right.
Right. So I have a guy right now who lost, 470,000 2 years ago, but this last year he made 200 grand.
Yeah.
So we're using the 1 year, and it's all depreciation, other stuff that we can add back in on the other one, but not enough to add back in because of, they do certain things. I had another guy who, he's in the real estate industry and does multifamily and builds huge complexes. He showed he made no money, but he actually made 2 million each year.
Yeah.
And because it's the same thing that Trump does. You keep putting that money into the next deal, next whatever. It shows you don't have any income, but you really did have income.
Right.
So you just have to be very careful. Don't listen to nothing's absolute out there.
Right.
Listen
Study
to
everybody
them and try to use certain things for you that you can do. And don't listen to these guys on social media because they don't. Anyway, Dave Ramsey also got, when he bought his, when he did certain things in the beginning, when he started this whole thing, he was in a place where, oh, by the way, I just bought this place and now it's worth like $6 million. Oh my God, what happened? You got to be careful with what people are saying because everything, you're asked, when is the best time to buy real estate? 10 years ago or today? That's your choice. So.
Well, that's what they say. Seek guidance, see who you align with, who can help you. There are some people that no matter who the coach is, it works for that particular person, but you have to know where are you and what do you want before you can determine who can help you get in between those two things. Angela, something that's interesting with you is you didn't jump within the same industry. You literally went investing, insurance, real estate, entrepreneur, so how did you keep your name with you so people wanted to follow you? Because that's one of the big things is back when you started, branding wasn't really a thing. And you said you just sold your company, but now you are a brand, right?
Don't be that old. She's not that old, Brian. Don't be rude like that.
No, well, she said 25 years in real estate. Back then, it was
Branding's
you aligned
always
with
been
a big company, not in this is my name is Angela. You know what I mean? Like you just said, hey, I'm with this company. You made it more about the company, but we now live in a day and age where you make it about me and I happen to be working somewhere or partnering with someone.
Before she answers. All right. So she said Remax. So Remax is known as one of the biggest places to be at today.
Right.
And their agents are the top agents. That's what they push out there.
Yeah.
Even though you say you're with Remax, I guarantee you she had a totally separate brand, just like all real estate agents do.
Right.
It's unusual for other people in other industries to understand that same process. So I'll shut up, Angela.
All right. Yes. So one of the things that I learned is I was married. I talked about during the real estate years. So when I sold that company, yes, we had our own name. We were actually Duncan's his last name, and I kept it, haha, for him. But we were known as the Duncan duo. So that was more memorable than Remax for us. So in our local market, that's what people knew us for. So that was a great brand. But when you're building a company, and if you're not careful in how you're building that brand, and this was a mistake I did with my insurance company, is that I had to sell all of the IP that went with the company, meaning all of the social media, the database, the name, everything was tied to that insurance company, went with that insurance company. Not only do I not have a company anymore, but I no longer have a group of people that I can start selling whatever it is my next product was. And so Empower Her Money is only a year old. And my plan this time is to keep that as my umbrella. And then I can do other companies under it, which will have its own name. But now I don't sell off the IP, the intellectual property, Empower Her Money. That will always be my database. And so that was a mistake and something that I learned from that last company. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're building, make sure that you kind of, and we talked about this, Brian, yesterday, is that you have your exit plan when you get into your business, because if you build it and you have to sell it all, then what's next is going to be you starting over from scratch, rebuilding a whole new name again.
Mhm. Well, and there's a
Can I
lot.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Why aren't you using your actual name?
Well, for several reasons. I mean,
I mean,
honestly,
why don't you have Empower Her Money and then your name, and then you boost both of them at the same time? So when you do sell Empower Her Money, if you do that down the road, you can still have who you are, and you should make enough money this time to really retire forever. But I'm just saying that way you build both at the same time.
yeah, I will say it's easier for men than women. And the reason why is because when we get married, we typically change our last name. So Duncan is still my ex-husband's last name. So
Mhm.
I don't build the brand now around my name necessarily, because I do hope to get married again someday. And I'm not sure how my future husband will like my name staying as my ex-husband's name. Might be something that he may not be okay with. So for me, I'm building the Empower Her Money brand. And then I will build sub brands under that, which can be parceled off and sold. Kind of like, Procter and Gamble owned Colgate or Crest, right? Those are
Mhm.
separate names under the big umbrella, so they can piece it off, but you still have the main company. So that's my hope this time around.
All right, can I add one more? Why didn't you go back to your maiden name then?
Because it's really long and complicated. People couldn't spell it, and Duncan's just easy.
Well, I mean, he could always take your last name. So
Well, that's true.
Hey, you never know. We went through that.
that's what Brian did.
Yeah. Yeah. When I got divorced, my ex kept the last name because we have a daughter, and she didn't want. I grew up in a household with a different last name than everyone else when my mom remarried, and it was hard for me as a kid because I was the only Galke in a house full of Stecks. And at one point, as a kid, I asked, "Can I change my name?" And it was only because people could say that last name. So I get what you're saying, and it's interesting in this world, this day and age, if you have kids or not, and you have to think long term about a lot of the decisions versus some people are like, I can't wait to get rid of that last name. And some people are like, hey, you know what? It's a name. It doesn't really matter. It's not the status that it used to carry, and my lineage must move on and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting for sure.
Good points.
I'm done talking.
What's that?
I said I'm done talking.
You're done talking. One last question. You said you were kind of in that in-between phase, right? Where you're going to work on the Empower Her Money. What else is kind of pulling towards you now that you've had this kind of, at first when you sell off, or if you take off and you leave a job for whatever reason, there's that fun period where it feels like vacation for like a month. And then after that, you're like, oh shit, what should I be doing? And so you start dabbling in things. What are some of the things you're dabbling in?
Yeah. And I think I'm at that point. That vacation period is way past. It's been a year since I sold my company. Yes, I launched the podcast. It became a top podcast, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Wrote the book. I also wanted to do my own events and sell them out without being part of the previous brand. So I've done that. Spoke on stages. I have some great opportunities in front of me. I really want to find a partnership that can be long-term. I don't necessarily want to build from scratch, but I feel like I've got so many great connections. I know that I'm experienced. I've got lots of strengths that can offer a company. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've been out looking and kind of putting out the word that I am searching to become part of a company, to help a company grow and use the strengths that I have and the connections I have to take that company to the next level. But yeah, I'm almost at that board point where I'm like, okay, it's time to get back to work again.
Sure.
All right. When you say that company, what are you looking for in that company?
That's a great, I'm working through this with my coach right now, and I'm not sure. I've always been in the money space. So whether it's investments, real estate, insurance, these are all numbers, data driven. I'm great with the data piece of a business and operations. So I don't know. I think I'm up for a big challenge. I want to grow both professionally and personally. And so I keep putting this out there, and like I said, my faith is very strong to me. So God's going to open that door, and he's going to show me which partnership I'm going to be most valuable to, and just help that company grow.
Let me be more specific. Is it just for a company that's just for women, or is it a company that entices more than that? That was right.
Ideally, yes, but I'm not going to limit my professional growth to one niche, but the podcast will stay the same.
Got it.
Just wanted to clarify. Sorry. I'm like you. I ask
as long as I can wear pink to the office, I'm good.
Oh, Brian does.
Yeah.
Just underneath those clothes.
You can't tell. I wear jeans and then shorts, because it's summertime, so you got to wear shorts. All right, so we've got here empowerhermoney.com is one way to reach you. How else can people reach out and find you?
Yeah, Empower Her Money is my website. That's also my Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook is Angela Duncan. It's the best ways to reach me. And if there's opportunities out there, feel free to message me. I do actually check my own messages still.
Awesome.
Appreciate you being here today. And
Yeah,
Brian,
thanks for
take us
joining us,
out.
Angela.
Thank you.
So slow to start, but see, we pick up steam as we go.
I wasn't slow.
I am. I'm still having computer problems. I think I'm gonna have to reboot after this. So, well, again, thank you for joining us today.
On those sites, I told you.
I get bored at times. So,
In your
Don't we
right
all?
here.
yeah. All right, Angela, thank you for joining us today. Ed, you want to take us out?
I brought us in. You take us
I
out.
know, but I thought you were in charge today. So, all right, everybody, thank you again for joining us on Aces 53 with Ed and I on Tuesdays. Thursdays, just like today, we bring in a special guest who has a skill or talent we think everyone can benefit from. So, the best way to support us is to like, subscribe, and share. So, again, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Angela. Everybody have a great week.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.